Good job, Nick.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brandon Beach. I've been friends with Steve for about 15 years now. We were and still are fraternity brothers. Steve was a groomsman in my wedding, and will be a groomsman in my next wedding, and probably the one after that. But I digress. So traditionally, this is usually the point in the reception where the best man will stand up and give a little speech, but by looking at this motley crew over here that he's assembled, I can see why he chose to forego that tradition and doesn't have a best man.
You're all my best man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Aw. So as we all know,
Lame.
Steve is a lawyer, and it's required by law, though, that somebody has to give a speech during dinner, and that legal responsibility has fallen on me. So with that in mind, I can only think of one proper way to fulfill this, again, legal responsibility. Your Honor, I'd like to call to the stand Mr. Jim Hoffpower to testify on the charges that Stephen Paul Larson, Esquire, is guilty of true love to the Mrs. Heather May Larson, who made her name Heather May Sprouse. Mr. Jim Hoffpower, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Such is my desire.
Mr. Jim Hoffpower, how long have you known Mr. Stephen Paul Larson, Esquire?
I've known the defendant for about 15 years.
Mostly blurred years?
What? Yes.
Mr. Jim Hoffpower, how long have you known Mrs. Heather May Larson?
I believe it was October 2nd, 2013, I first met her at the AL Wildcard game in Jacobsfield.
Okay, Mr. Jim Hoffpower, when did you first know that Mr. Stephen Paul Larson, Esquire, was in fact in true love with Mrs. Heather May Larson, beyond a reasonable doubt?
Something was in the air that evening at Jacobsfield, but the true confirmation came a few months later on November 18, 2013. That is when I knew he was in love. I was hosting a 1920s murder mystery party at my home. Mr. Larson informed us that his guest would be Mrs. Sprouse. We drew the characters at random, had no idea who was going to do what. Well, that random draw was not very kind to Miss Sprouse. Mind you, this was the first time that she was meeting many of Steve's friends. That was the night that we knew she would be the one for Steve. Mr. Larson, by virtue of luck, drew the character of Kenneth Baxter, a tenacious, pompous U.S. assistant prosecutor. Clearly, there was no character research involved for Mr. Larson. Mrs. Sprouse, on the other hand, drew the character of Nina Clyde. A bubbly French chambermaid at the Ritz-Carlton on the border, who's known for being quite feisty and branded as the hotel's source of juicy gossip and flirtatious deceit. We knew Mrs. Sprouse and who she was that evening. This group has never seen a classier, more professional French maid. There aren't many women comfortable and confident enough to dress as a French maid when meeting many of her boyfriend's friends for the first time. I saw the way Steve looked at her that night. Those blue eyes twinkling may have had something to do with the costume and the dusty feather that she was carrying around. But I think it had more to do with the fact that he knew he'd finally found the one that perfectly fit with our group of degenerates. And more importantly, I knew he had found the one that fit perfectly with him.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Hoffpower.
Permission to speak freely, sir.
Go ahead.
There's no reason to drag this case out any further. I know and have known Steve for quite some time, and he loves Heather with all his heart. Heather and Finn are the most important people in his life, and he would devote his life to being a great husband just as he has devoted his life to being a great father and a great friend. He is most certainly guilty of true love. So with that, I proceed that we move on to the toast.
Also, you want the toast?
I want the toast.
You want the toast?
I want the toast!
You can't handle the toast!
Ladies and gentlemen of the Stephen Paul Larson, Esquire, and Heather May Larson wedding, you have heard Mr. Jim Hoffpower's testimony. Might I add that Stephen Parr Lawson, Esquire, also expressed these same sentiments to me as well in person. He told me from the moment he started dating Mrs. Heather May that he had a sneaking suspicion that he would in fact one day marry this woman. Over time his love for her grew and grew.